Hello and welcome to this video on beginnings and endings in narratives and why they are important and why you need to consider both of them. So let's go ahead and get right to it. So why are beginnings important? Well, as we have discovered, and especially it's even more true in these days, we need to be able to hook our readers and get them involved. I've heard a few of you readers say, you know what, if you can't catch me in the first few pages, that I just won't. I'll just kind of give up on it. There are so many different things fighting for our attention at any given time: social media, cell phones, video games, TV shows, movies, other activities, animals, pets. A lot of things are fighting for our attention. And if someone actually sits down and takes the time to open up a book and read the first few lines, that is going to determine whether they want to continue on with it. So we absolutely need to hook our reader. But it's not enough just to hook their reader. That may get you in the door, but you want them to stay and visit for a while and actually complete the journey with you. So let's talk about why our endings are important. And this will tell you a little story. I'm going to share a little story with you. So this couple, they went on a date, and they had an absolutely wonderful date. It was just beautiful and gorgeous. They watched the sunset, had a nice dinner, went for this nice, beautiful walk. They had been dating for a while, and the guy here was getting up the courage to kind of really tell her how he felt about things. So he takes her back to her place, and he's there at the door. He says, "Look, I just wanted to let you know that I love you." And she responds, "Oh, that is so nice. Thank you. Good night." And then let's see, what is he going to be thinking about after the date? Is he going to think about the wonderful meal they had, the walk they had, the sunset or the beautiful? I'm betting he's going to be thinking, what did she mean by, "Oh, that is so nice"? Does that mean she doesn't feel the same way? Did I catch her off guard? So the ending may have completely been the thing that is focused on in this particular situation. It can absolutely make or break a story by, not all endings have to be happy or they have to be complete. Sometimes they can make us think, but they can't be unsatisfying. So how do we avoid that? Well, there is the concept of coming full circle. And this is a concept that is not really talked a lot about when it comes to writing, but I think it is something that's important. We've started our story, let's say we started our story here, where we've had the status quo and we have a character or characters or whatever, and things get out of whack, okay? And we go on this journey. Woo-hoo! Well, eventually we want some sort of resolution to why we got things out of whack in the first place. An example of this in real life is, for those of you who are old enough to remember 9/11, I actually lived in the New York City area when 9/11 happened. I was working in broadcasting when it happened, so I have quite the insight in on that. Don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but I do remember there was, after the events of 9/11, not long after, week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, there was this almost outcry from the public to want to get back to normal. Their world had been, rocked as it was, but they wanted to get back to normal. There was even a famous thing where I can't remember, it was like a fundraiser or something, but Saturday Night Live, the members of Saturday Night Live had asked, I think Mary Giuliani, and said, is it okay for us to be funny again? And his response was classic, as he said, "Well, why start now?" But the idea was that the idea of wanting to get back to normal, like the baseball season was put on hold during that time. So there is that sense of wanting to get that sense of normalcy. That's just kind of who we are in life. And so the idea of coming full circle with a beginning and an ending is that, did we really, we kind of posed a question or set up a problem, or I even made a promise to the reader of some kind of adventure we're going to. Did we fulfill that promise? Okay, I don't know. It's an interesting question. So to give this a little more credibility, I'm going to look at a couple of my books and explain kind of what I kind of did for each one. for beginnings and endings, and a little bit of a spoiler alert for some of these. But in Bring Down the Rain, basically the introduction is this is Derek. He's traveling with his parents during this Christmas break. Long story short is that they get into an accident in the first chapter. His father dies, and it really and Derek is injured quite severely with one of his legs. And so at the point where he'll be able to walk, but he'll never be able to play sports again. And so we've hooked the reader into, oh my gosh, this guy who seems, he's a teenager, he's a junior in high school, and is about to start his senior year soon. His whole world is changed, and so his status quo is completely broken. Well, then the whole story takes us on his move from North Carolina to Utah, where he meets a girl named Tiffany, and he has to kind of figure out what he's going to do with his life. He starts to figure out some other interests. Drama kind of follows him. It turns out that he's going to the same high school where his father went, and it just so happens that, of course, the vice principal of the school knew his father and didn't particularly like his father. They were not the best of friends. In fact, they were enemies. So that is problematic for a young man who is already in turmoil. Tiffany has her own sub-story where they help each other out. At the very end of the book, basically, Derek has really the promise at the beginning was, what is he going to do with his life? And the events that he experiences and the choices that he makes throughout the book brings us to a point at the end of the book where he has then figured out at least a direction to go, and he's got some solid ground, and I don't want to spoil it any more than that. So there's one example. Give me another example, not a book I really talked about too much. This is actually what I wanted to bring this one up. This is the second book of the Barrow Chronicles. I can almost say that. So the first book was called The Hidden Sun. This was called The Waxing Moon. And then the final book in the series was called The Zealous Star. And why I wanted to bring in this one, because this is book 2 of a trilogy. Well, okay, it's a standalone book, but it's part of a 3-book series. You cannot really get away with writing a book that has a cliffhanger. There needs to be each book. So I'd look at it this way: there's like a big arc overall for the whole series, but then each book has like its own little mini arc. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So in this particular book, it uses one of the main characters. I don't want to spoil it, but this is one of the main characters. Actually, he's a sub character in the first book. But the story begins with takes place in medieval times. It takes place in a made-up land, but there's no magic. It's just kind of whatever. A city, a small little village in the northern mountains. They discover a tunnel, which as they're digging as they're mining, and they find out that inside this tunnel actually is a bricked-up wall. And they're like, how in the world did they get this bricked-up wall in the middle of the mountain? And they then open up the mountain, and they open up the hole in the wall to see kind of what was beyond it. Well, the next thing we know is that the kingdom then finds out that all the people from that village have disappeared, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why they're concerned about that, which again I won't go into a lot of detail here. But basically, the main story is that the main character here. Again, I would tell you his name, but it's a little odd without context of the whole story. He goes with an expedition to find out what happened to these people. And by the end of the book, we understand not only what happened to the people, why it happened to the people, but more importantly, we see the growth of him as an individual as he experiences that. But the promise at the beginning was, we have this unsolved thing. There's this bricked up wall in the middle of a mountain. The people then disappeared. We don't know why. By the end of the book, we have those answers, which then sets up the next book in the series. But at least it is a continual circle. So anyway, there's some concepts of beginnings and endings. Hopefully that'll help you when you consider how you want to approach beginnings and endings.